All right, recording is started, and this is the May 18th, 2023 Crossplane community meeting. So the agenda doc is open for everybody to add any topics that they want to. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to the agenda doc within the Zoom chat here so that folks can directly access the doc and start adding any suggestions for what they want to be talking about today and adding today. I don't think we have a super heavy agenda to go through today, so there's definitely some room for folks that want to add anything that they want to. And Dan, we should get you edit permissions on the doc again. Looks like you're only adding suggestions, so we should definitely get you some edit permissions again, my friend, as a maintainer of the project. All right, cool. So the last meeting we had was on May 4th. In my absence, Jean drove the meeting and the agenda for me. So thank you for taking care of that, John. I do appreciate that. Since that meeting, there have been no releases, like patch releases or minor releases of the Crossplane project or Crossplane runtime. So I think we could skip over that and move into discussion for 1.3. So I think we're about 1/3 of the way through the lifecycle for the 1.13 milestone. We are about 1 month in from the 1.12 release, and then at the end of July is when we are scheduled to do 1.13. So we're about 1 month in out of 3 months. So still somewhat early, but starting to pick up some momentum. I think that there are a number of things that are in flight or going to be focused on. I myself have been out of the office for at least 2 weeks now, maybe more than that, including Amsterdam KubeCon. So I'm a little bit out of touch. So I'll be leaning on folks a little more heavily today than normal, I think. But let's go ahead and for the 1.13 milestone here, let's take a look at the 1.13 board. Actually, let's look at the high level roadmap. Oh, it looks like this got chopped somehow. We can maybe deal with that later. Okay, so let's look at the roadmap first. And so let's look at the 1.13 column. And so I think there's a number of things that have been moved into 1.13 or be areas of focus for 1.13. I think it is still yet to be seen exactly what will be delivered, like finished within this milestone. Some of these things will be starting with designs or starting with some initial foundational efforts for it. So I think that's one thing that I would like to improve about the roadmap. And I've heard this feedback before as well, of making it more clear when you look at the roadmap, what will be delivered and finalized within the given milestones here. But we have a number of things that are all that are already part of 1.13 or in efforts going on there. So I think we'll talk completely about the full effort for installing through our CRDs and no longer crippling the API server when providers are installed in Crossplane. That we'll have a special section on that entirely. So let's skip over that now. And we have talked in the past about continuing to mature and advance composition functions and environment configs. Let's see if there's things that have not been talked about before that should maybe be mentioned here. And John, you know what was talked about last time. So maybe end-to-end integration testing, is that something new to mention and kind of give a little bit talking about what the status is or what we're doing with that?
No, we talked about all of these things last time. As a quick reminder, end-to-end integration testing, we've busy working on a proposal for that. So Lovro and Predrag is evaluating a whole bunch of different frameworks and tooling and probably about a week or so away from putting a proposal out there. We're continuing to expand on the schema-aware composition validation, and Philippe continues to add more coverage there. We're pretty much close to that. And then the proposal for the ignore changes functionality is getting close to completion. Lovro, I don't know if you want. I know there's been a few conversations over the last few days. I don't know if you want to give a quick summary of what the outstanding kind of like decision points are on that proposal.
Yeah, so I already thought that we are wrapping it up and we have it ready, but there's still some concerns about how the management policies will interact with the deletion policies, especially the observe only one, which makes having observe only and then having a deletion policy deletes seems kind of counterintuitive. So we have some discussion going on around this still. So if anybody has some feedback, for sure, Nick, you can check it. And yeah, I hope soon we'll be able to come to some conclusion and pick some solution that is acceptable for everybody. So
my 2 cents is don't overthink it and just have a delete policy that allows you to delete stuff that is also marked as observer-only in the management policy, and just be like, hey, observer-only, don't also tell Crossplane to delete your things, but I'll go look.
Yeah. There are some points that Hassan made that could cause some like having a. I mean, I won't go into details, but yeah, there's still some. If you could check it, it would be great. And add your comment there, your thoughts. Maybe we are overthinking it and are too cautious. Maybe it's also that.
So something then that I wanted to call out specifically as well is that, with the effort to mature composition functions and environment configs, if you look at both of these issues here, they're more like epics with a task list of known things that we want to at least look into when considering how to mature these currently alpha level features. Something that is helpful is well, 2 things actually. One is that getting an understanding from people, if you have strong opinions or desires for particular issues of this list here that are more important than other ones, do let us know so we get that feedback and understand what's the most important things to do to successfully mature these features and make sure that they're usable for folks. And then I know at least, I guess say with both of them, both composition functions and environment configs, we have been getting good participation and support from contributors within the community. So if folks want to tackle some of these subtasks and implement them, then that's something that folks are already doing and will certainly continue to encourage for it being a community effort to continue maturing these features too. Let's do a quick look then at the 1.13 board as a whole. I think this may be a little bit out of date, so I would ask contributors to the project if there's things that you're working on or pull requests that are open, if you can make sure that they're updated on this board as well. And if you have any access permissions or issues with that, do let me know also. Is there anything on this within the 1.13 scope that folks want to bring up? Maybe Dan, I would love to pick your brain a little bit about things that you might be spending time on or progress that you kind of want to share in 1.13 as well.
Yeah, I was just about to move the, well, I don't know if it's technically in design since the PR is not open yet, but for the PRI last week for folks who weren't here, or 2 weeks ago for folks who weren't there, there's a PR open to expand the controller config, and I kind of pushed back a little bit on doing that since it's deprecated right now, but there was some very fair feedback that, well, we don't have another solution, so this is blocking for folks, and so coming out of that, there was kind of 2 action items. One was on my part, getting a design doc up for provider runtime interface, which I currently have in progress and hope to have open next week. And then some work from folks around mutating webhooks or using something like Kyverno to mitigate the intermediate use cases that folks have. So that's kind of top of mind focus for me right now. I think Hassan has kind of taken the lead on some of that revision resource ownership stuff. So I'm kind of just reviewing his work on that at this point.
Yeah, maybe we can move that to in progress, that issue, Jared.
Awesome. Let me do that on my other screen because this is should be at least a GitHub that I'm not signed into, and specifically on purpose. So let me try to do it on the other screen. And that's the improved resource transition ownership. That's probably in progress then, Hassan?
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we refresh the board because I just moved. Here we go. So it sounds like, Dan, that the provider runtime interface, that's something that in design now you're kind of like working on the design doc there. It's not necessarily available for review, but that's something you're thinking through, sketching things out, trying to come up with a proposal there. And then Hassan is working on some practical implementation stuff around improving the resource ownership transition stuff.
Yeah, and so well, I can go in there and add Hassan's face to it as well.
Yeah, that'd be probably good if Hassan's working on that to have them there too. Okay, that's great because those are, I know 3742 has come up in a couple different avenues or channels recently. And it would be great to have continued investment there to make that more robust and improve or increase the already decent reliability it does have, but making it even harder, especially as more providers pop up too. So I like the effort that we're doing. Okay. Other things that are on the board for 1.13, anything else that anybody on the call here wants to add as something in progress or questions on 1.13? Okay, cool. So then we can go ahead and move on then, now that we're done talking about 1.13, and let's move on down into providers as well then. So Jean, do you want to kind of take this section here for, giving us an update on the providers? I think maybe folks can on their own time click through the different versions there, release notes, etc. But getting on into smaller scope providers, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so just on the outbound providers for AWS, GCP, Azure, and Azure AD, one of the biggest changes was just we bumped them up to the latest Terraform providers. So there will be new resources that can be added, new fields and bug fixes, etc. And then there was some smaller bug fixes, etc. in them. In terms of the kind of like what we're referring to as provider families. So we've now released or made available for testing some release candidate images to help specifically with the problem of CRD scaling. So right now, for instance, if you install the Azure or AWS provider, it installs over 900 CRDs and can be pretty crippling. So with the new approach, you can dramatically trim that down. And we've seen some positive feedback from some of our customers who are trialing this out. One person reported, I think it was kube control, calling get managed, where it would take 2 minutes previously, returning in something like 20 seconds now. So that's some positive feedback that we've received so far. We're currently focused on further testing and validation, but then also specifically, evaluating, the migration process from the monolith to the smaller providers. And, if anybody's interested in trying it out, there's a document with some details on what they are, how it works, and what you should be doing. And then there's also some instructions on how you can, if you're already kind of like running the monolith provider in an environment, how you can migrate to the provider families.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this doc here was shared within like the announcements channel on the Slack workspace also, right? So that's already gotten a bit of a
Correct.
Broader distribution than just being announced in this community meeting, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, and I think this is especially helpful to help folks understand, what it is, like what's being changed here, how to use it, the benefits of it, the migration to be able to consume it, all that sort of stuff. And this is a great time now in terms of a practical perspective of trying it out, getting feedback, making sure that your experience is heard and things like that. So, this is a pretty big effort that's, took a lot of consensus, so it took a lot of discussion, et cetera, and is coming together now and providing very soon very tangible benefits. So I think a lot of folks worked very hard on this, and I'm really happy to see where it is so far. John, anything to add on service scope providers, or any questions from anybody?
No, I mean, we'd appreciate anybody trying them out and sharing any feedback you have, specifically if you run into problems, but also positive feedback is helpful to hear. If everything goes well, we've got a provisional target date of the 13th of June to go GA with them. And at that point, we'll also be introducing changes to the marketplace UI to accommodate the new provider family structure.
Great. All right. Did you want to take it to the next section as well too, John?
Yeah, I
Which
think we've
actually
pretty
got
much
talked about.
covered. Yeah, we've covered that in the roadmap review already, so there's nothing new to add there.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so then let's move on into the community topics section here then. So as usual, we've put together a set of recent content from the Crossplane project, you know, podcasts and blogs and all sorts of stuff. So a couple of cool things to read here or watch as it may be. So feel free to click into all of these links here and check out anything that may be of interest to you. And if you have anything that you've written or you know, published or anything about Crossplane, feel free to let us know about that as well, and we can add it to this list. And always happy to, you know, share things from the community that you're writing and publishing, etc., on the various channels and Twitter and Slack and all that stuff too. So just always reach out if you have something that you've produced that you want us to share. Pete, I believe this was you, my friend, about a proposal of dropping versions. It was in the backlog, but it didn't have a name. So I think that was you. Is that correct, my friend?
That is. Thank you.
All right, give us a little rundown here, buddy.
Yeah, so today we maintain the current supported versions and documentation. So everything gets duplicated into a folder. It has its own unique subdomain. There's a little version drop down on the docs. If you want to go to the docs really quick, Jared, just to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about, go ahead and click on user docs on the left. And so we're on v1.12 and there's this pretty little drop down. We change this with every release as we EOL, you know, as 1.13 comes out, we'll EOL 1.10, we remove that old version of the docs. So effectively what I'm proposing is flattening this. And so instead of having versions here, we just have the docs, which we see in a lot of other products. The big things that we have to be extremely mindful of is one, introducing a changelog, which will happen independent of this proposal, so that we can see what things are happening, what's new, what's changed between releases. And that will be not only Crossplane releases, so it will mirror some of the Crossplane release notes, but also just updates and changes to the docs as well. And then two, within a given page, making sure that we clearly indicate when a feature was introduced, deprecated, or removed. So a good example of that would be like composition functions. I don't know if anybody has any initial thoughts, you know, looking for feedback in the proposal on the issue itself.
Yeah, Pete, I think there's probably already been. Oh yeah, this looks like Nick has weighed in with some opinions on it. You know, I'm kind of catching up on a lot of things, and so I have not read through this in its entirety. But you know, my initial instincts around it, maybe are the same of what I would guess Nick might say is, you know, hesitancy or concerns about, hey, you know, when things change, or, you know, there's a new feature here, or this thing was different in a different version. So having the docs, you know, live alongside the version so that they're always exactly matching, you know, the truth at that point in time is typically a good thing. But I do see that you've, you know, kind of at least had you got some headers here around addressing that and, you know, thinking through that. So that was my initial reaction of like, oh, hey, like we need to have versions for each docs, but you perhaps have already thought through that, which I don't have a, you know, response to right now.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for resolution on call today, but just wanted to bring it to y'all's attention. You know, have folks bring their thoughts or concerns around here as well.
Nick, was there some of your feedback that would be, or at least where you're thinking about it now, that would be useful to summarize right here in this discussion?
No, same as you, my intuition is that this is not how I would do it. But my comment on this was more than a week ago, and I'm just rereading and loading the state now, so I don't think I can have a productive conversation on it.
That's all for me. Thanks, Jared.
And Pete, what's if you can, you kind of talk through some of your thought process around this. If like, do you have like a top number one reason for the proposal here? Is like, what's the biggest problem that you want to solve? Is that is this an order of priority here, or what do you think about that?
Kind of. I think it's number one is search and bookmarks, not just the Algolia on-page search, but Google search, especially when new versions comes out. It takes the search indexes 1, 2, 3 weeks to catch up. So you always end up getting Google search results for older versions or possibly even removed versions. And also because the version is part of the URL, your bookmark will eventually break when we EOL that version of the doc. Those are the two big things. And I think the other one is it allows us to flatten a lot of the content that is split between the knowledge base, which is kind of version independent stuff, and call like the user docs or the configuration guides, which are more version dependent.
I see what you're talking about that. Yeah, at least with the URLs and search results and stuff, I think that so with the search results within the docs, I noticed when I was using the docs recently that you did make an improvement there to only show like latest version essentially right in the search results, and that already did seem like a tangible step forward in terms of good experience around search results within the docs. So kudos to that, and I think that did solve at least some of these, some percentage of these problems, right? So that was really cool, man.
And I would agree with that. And I've done some work to try to improve the indexing with search engines as well. But really a lot of that's coming at the expense of ignoring the older stuff. So just not indexing the non-latest version.
Oh, got it. And and so that kind of leads me to also make a specific mention as well, is that with each release, one of the tangible steps that we do is in the release process is to add a a content removal request to Google for like the version that we just sunset or just went out of our maintenance window. So for instance, like with the last release, I added a request to Google within the Google Search Console to remove 1.9 and do not show that anymore. One thing we could consider is, have Google only show the latest. So like we would say, nope, don't do 1.10 or 1.11 either, just show 1.12 right now in terms of Google search results. So that could be a further improvement to make that better for like Google search results.
And that's one of the things we've done. So we actually have a hidden /latest set of the docs, and only /latest gets indexed.
Oh, is that like a robots.txt thingy? Oh, okay. Have you seen that work well then since you added that? Or
I did that like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't actually followed up to see if it's working.
Oh, okay. That'll be interesting to see then, like if you have good results from that. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, Pete. And if folks have further opinions on it, then it looks like there already is a discussion going on here, so we can continue along with the discussion here as well.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Okay, and then there were no other specific agenda items that were or PRs that need attention, etc. So I wanted to give a call out to the full set of attendees here for anything that you maybe did not add to the agenda document that you wanted to add right now or bring up right now for discussion. Okay, well, if there weren't other things that folks wanted to add to the agenda, then looks like we could adjourn a little bit early here and give folks back some time. All right, well, good to see everybody. And maybe next time, Dan, we'll see you with the buzzed hair. Maybe not, though. We'll see how you resolve that situation. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Right.